Just quieten down, baby.
Per capita export value.
Libraries. Minister, are you embarrassed by your behavior today?
There's a lot of bleeding hearts around.
Do you have the fortitude or the gonads to stand up and come across here and say that to me, you son of a bitch?
Just watch me.
He certainly went too far, Mr. Speaker, when I saw him stick his tongue out.
Contemptuous disregard. More than a slab of bacon talking here.
The disappointment you also feel is my responsibility.
I lost my temper.
What is the nature of your thoughts?
The word was FART.
We're about to get started, but Jesse's just slowly getting undressed. If you enjoy the sound of Jesse getting undressed, then you're in for a real treat.
Hold on a second. Let me lower the microphone. All right. There we go. Naked as the day I was born, ready to record.
Great, yay. So we always record naked because the sound of clothes can be really off-putting for listeners. So we hate that rustling, no jewelry, nothing, just the skin we were born in, roughly.
Exactly. Reese taught me this. It's a Welsh tradition. I had no idea.
Yeah. Exactly.
Proud nudists, the Welsh.
Welcome to Canadian Politics is Boring. My name is Reese Waters. I am an immigrant with a thirst for knowledge about weird stuff in Canadian politics. And with me is Jesse, my co-host, who is a Canadian who does not give a shit about anything apart from, I don't know, maple syrup and coffee.
Oh, that's so good, though, man. Have you tried it yet?
I do. I do like it. I did try it after you did it, and I hated myself for going, he was right. So, Jesse, I've got a speak pipe for you.
Ooh, pour moi?
For you, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
And I actually know the person who left it, so I'm going to leave. Here we go.
That's not nearly as fun when you know them.
Hey, guys, this is Vicky. You know me. Yay. And I'd like to go on a date with Jesse, but I have some questions because I'm a picky bitch. Okay? So, one thing is, he's not allowed to be smarter than me. That annoys me. Secondly, I need to know how old he is, so I'm not dating like some sort of weird daddy figure, because that would be gross. Thirdly, he's gotta be a feminist, because I don't have time for this misogynist shit. Lastly, if he's cute, that would be excellent, although I'm not holding my breath. Anyway, I would like to take you for a caffeinated beverage of your choice, where I can talk your ear off and maybe make you a little less dumb than you currently are. So if you guys have my email, you should email it, because you can't do any better, and you certainly can't do any worse. So yeah, that's all I had to say, and I look forward to hearing from you, provided you are not a dick.
Provided I'm not a dick. Vicky, do you listen to the show?
That's Vicky. I know Vicky. She's an activist locally, and she's got an awesome sense of humor.
Well, thank you, Vicky, for that. I, you know what? I've got some great and some weird responses to. I think this was all your idea, getting me a date on the show. I'm taking down my profile.
I think she's underestimating how old you are as well. I think you
how
would be
old
some
and
kind
how
of
ugly.
gross daddy figure. So
how old, how ugly, how dumb, and how misogynistic I am. Apparently, yeah, that's
exactly. So
you would hate going out with me, Vicky. I'm an old dumb fucker. I did say old dumb hate
sexist fucker.
Yeah, thank you. That's it. I couldn't find the words because I'm so dumb.
There we go. That's why I'm here. I fill in the blanks so you can function.
God. Yep. Thank you.
So
Reese,
yeah, thanks for that, Vicky. That was one of my favorite ones. That was pretty funny. Yeah. Anyway, have you got? I know you always ask me about the bear, and I go, the bear's gone. Well, the bear was back last night with a vengeance.
Now
a hurricane's on the way. So
yeah, it's going to be bear versus hurricane this weekend. Guess who's going to win?
So like Sharknado. This is Bear Hurricane at my house tonight because Fiona, as we're recording this, Hurricane Fiona will be here in about 8 hours, and the bear's back. So
it's going
to be a low budget Canadian film version.
Bear Hurricane. We have to make Bear Hurricane.
Bear Hurricane. So Hurricane Fiona is hours away as we record.
Hundreds of terrified bears, hungry, terrified bears swirling around in the air around your house. Reaching out with the long bear claws. Oh, God. Someone please.
Only if we could follow it up with the sequel, Pierre Polyev on a plane.
Pierre Polyev on a plane? How about
snakes on a plane?
Right.
Get this. There's motherfucking Polyev on this motherfucking plane.
Wow. You swore before. Is that your annual
Actually, we had
allotment?
I got out my system. We had we had a 1-star review for too much profanity. So fuck you.
They're not listening anymore. Anyway. It's not like they leave a 1-star review and then keep listening.
Well, maybe they come back to see if we cleaned up our act after the 1-star review. Well, I've got news for you, you cunt. We're not going to.
This is great. This is like a treat for me. God.
It's my first time ever. I might have to beat myself. Anyway. When I used to do lots of TV work for the BBC, they used to ask us to beep things. And I always thought it sounded worse.
I heard you say beat.
Yeah.
I didn't know.
No.
I thought you said beat, B-E-A-T. Like, I thought there was some kind of Welsh thing. Like, little Timmy swore, get out the paddle.
No, you beep. Whenever the BBC used to ask us to beep things, I used to think they probably imagined it was the worst word rather than something in the middle. So I've never minded beeping bad language because I think it leaves it open to the imagination what you said. So anyway, should we talk about content? We're like 7 minutes in and we haven't.
Yeah. That was our STD zone. So
that was the STD zone. Bearnado. Barricade.
Barricade. Yeah.
Barricade. The Canadian version of. Okay. Anyway. We're laughing too much at our own joke. Anyway, this episode is called "The Pacifist Assassination," and it's historic.
I thought we were going to talk about Hurricane Fiona, which we're just about to get. By the way, this is, if you haven't guessed, we don't do these live and then dump them out 3 minutes after recording.
No. We're recording this, and then I'm going to jump in the car, go home, put all the kayaks and kids' toys away in a shed before.
You have a trampoline? Get rid of that trampoline, man.
They don't have a trampoline. We refuse to get one.
Jesus.
They will be multiple like broken bones if we had a trampoline. It's a bad idea.
Well, yeah, but then you get to teach them about the healthcare system in Canada.
The hard way. Yeah, exactly. I'd rather. That's fine. We just stick to a hoop of fire. Just nice safety.
Okay, that surprised me. I don't know where. Sorry.
So last week we did the war on pineapple in Canada, and that was a modern one. So Jesse, I'm going back in time to a nice historical topic. So there haven't been that many political assassinations in Canada, but
I'm surprised, honestly. I'm not that surprised. We're kind of polite, yeah.
I
think we had one guy like kill his mother and then take a pickup truck with some. What was it? Like bottles
guns.
of, was it guns? Oh, I thought it was, what is it? Bottles of
Molotov cocktails.
Molotov cocktails, yeah. Driving to the fucking,
Trudeau.
What is it called? Trudeau, yeah, what is his house?
Rideau Hall. I nearly called it Trudeau Hall, but it's Rideau Hall.
And then it just crashed into a lamppost or something and they took him down or something? I don't know. But that was like attempt number, 3? So
I think you're mashing two together there, but I know what you mean. Yeah.
Okay.
No, but this is successful assassination attempts. Like,
oh.
I think I found the most dramatic.
Okay. So this is so okay. So I asked.
It was never solved. It wasn't solved.
This kind of sounds like a dark and dreary, but really fascinating episode that I kind of asked for because several times in the past I have mentioned how I was like kind of surprised we haven't had assassination attempts in Canada. Like, it's like kind of surprised, but maybe I just haven't heard of them because it's, kind of my MO. I don't listen to shit.
Cyanide in a double, that kind of stuff. Anyway, do you want me to, so this one's really dramatic as well, and also it's classed as an unsolved crime still.
Okay.
Just to add extra layer of intrigue. So,
all right, I'm down.
Let's hear it. It was a still night, October the 28th, 1924, and it was 1 a.m. in the morning, and in on the Kettle Valley Railway in British Columbia.
Hold on, whoa! Sorry, you're telling this way too well. This is like story time where I feel like I'm going to be under a blanket with sipping a hot cocoa, and you're be sitting in a rocking chair.
You're interrupting it. You're interrupting.
No.
But
I'm just saying, like this. I feel like it
good until you piped in.
What? Little Jesse, shut the fuck up! It's story time.
Yeah.
I just feel like
straight to bed, and we will never finish this story.
That's what it's like every weekend, Ian Reese.
Exactly.
I just show up unannounced at his house.
Shut up, or you will not get to enjoy the entire narrative.
I was just going to say, maybe this would be good to add some sound effects or music or both. You're really good at it.
Just create more work. Okay, fine. So anyway, and the Kettle Valley Railway was known locally.
Wait, can you start
Columbia.
over? You got to start over. So you can.
I'm not starting over. I probably will have to start over because everyone's forgotten what I said.
I forgot already. Just saying.
So 1 a.m., October the 28th, 1984, and 1924, a train traveling in the Kettle Valley Railway in BC, known locally as the Columbia and Western Railway, suddenly exploded into a giant fireball while it was trundling through the mountains. 9 people were killed in the explosion, including the presumed assassination target, a man named Peter Verguin, who was the spiritual leader of the Dokabor people.
The Dokabor?
Yes. I think I'm pronouncing that wrong. The way I pronounce it, rather than sounding like the kind of ethnic group of people that they are, I'm probably massacring it, so I'm sorry. But I'll explain a little bit about why he was assassinated, because obviously it's probably, I guess you've never heard of this story. It's quite a dramatic way to go.
When did this happen again?
1924.
Okay.
But
and
9 people killed. BC.
In BC. Okay.
Yeah,
1924 BC.
In the mountains.
Fire explosion in the mountains on a train. All right. I really wish you would have painted a picture, because that could have been like, just picture like, you're on the train, you're going down from the passenger car to get to you want to have a beer, because there's a little tap room sidecar, not a sidecar, but you know what I mean, one of those beer cars.
I mean the dining carriage.
Well, no, past the dining carriage is the drinking carriage. Right, there's a little bar with a bartender and some places to sit and get fucking hammered. And you go up there and you order like a whiskey or a whiskey sour if you're a wuss, and you're just kind of sipping and you're talking to the bartender and asking what the latest sports news score is, and the bartender's like, I don't know, it's 1924, we don't have that technology yet, we're on a train. And you're like, right. And then suddenly you hear a kaboom behind you, and you're like, what the fuck was that? And the train is derailed, obviously, and you're flown through the car, but making sure to hold on to your whiskey sourness to not to spill it. And then you get up, and you've got a little bruise on your head, and the bartender is dead. And anyway, that's my contribution. That's how you tell a story, Reese. Just saying. That's how you paint a picture and tell a story. Build atmosphere.
Wow. So you just inserting your own narrative into a historical event.
That's what we do here, man.
Spiritual leader. So yeah. Anyway, so exactly. So Peter wasn't always a successful assassination target. Before that, he had a bit of a backstory. So
hold on, he was successful assassination he was the target, not the.
He was the target.
Oh,
he was the one killed, and like 9 other people who just so happened to be sitting next to him on the train.
Okay.
So he was born in 1859 in the Russian Empire, and it's the area that is roughly Azerbaijan today. And
1859. That's when the pig war happened.
Yeah, a lot happened that year. Big year for pigs and for the Russian Empire.
If you're interested about the pig war, we have a whole episode on it. Go check it out.
So the Dokabors are a large sect of peasants who lived communally at the time, and they kind of lived quite strict kind of lifestyles where they were pacifists. They believed in kind of like a simple life and working hard and those kind of things. So it was kind of like a
Mennonites.
Yeah, I guess so. So he was one of 7 brothers, and he was only one of him and only one other brother were homeschooled so that he could read and write. Because there were no formal schools; you were just kind of taught at home. And he kind of grew up in this community, and he eventually kind of rose up through the ranks within the community to become like an administrative assistant, and then eventually led. In 1886, he was so prominent in the community that he became the leader.
Did you say in 1886?
1886, yeah. So he became
a
the leader.
year after he was born.
No,
wait, that's 1859 was he born.
Mm-hmm.
Right, okay, sorry.
Yes. So he was like 27? No, yeah. Yeah, 27. So he's 27. But during the time when he became leader, the sect had kind of broken into 2. And he represented the larger part of the sect, but the smaller part had all the connections with the Russian Empire. So what happened was...
Whoa. Well, hold on. I thought this was an organization of peace and simple living. Where did this fucking connection with the Russian Empire come in?
Well, because they lived in the Russian Empire.
So this was in Canada. Silly
no,
me.
This will get to Canada. I said the Russian Empire. This is all happening in Russia at this stage.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, ladies and gentlemen.
What are you apologizing to them for?
Well, I don't know. On your behalf. Anyway.
Yeah, no, that's what I figured. I thought you were apologizing to them for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was doing.
Yeah, I thought so. Fucker.
So anyway, also, can you say ladies and gentlemen anymore? Because the spectrum is way wider. Sorry, everyone. Anyway, while a large party...
You know what? It's interesting, actually, on a side note, because there are... Just a side note talking about gender, I have several non-binary friends, and it's interesting because there are words such as ladies, gentlemen, that infer certain genders. And I asked, I'm like, what are the... Like, if I didn't want to use a pronoun, like she or he or they, but I wanted to use a word like ladies or gentlemen or sir or whatever, what are some terms for non-binary? And one of my friends said, call me comrade. Like, that's awesome.
There you go, comrades.
I love that.
There you go. So
ladies, gentlemen, and comrades. Yeah.
And we're talking about Russia, so it's perfect. There you go. Sorry, comrades. Anyway, he became known as a single name. So he wasn't called Peter. Everyone called him Lord Lee. And apparently, even though he lived like a peasant, he was treated almost like a demigod. They thought he was almost like a god in flesh.
Why?
I don't know. He must have been good at what he did. And
what did he do?
He was like a spiritual leader. And the motto for the community was toil and peaceful life. That was their motto.
I mean, that's a good motto. I like that.
But the same motto as Manitoba.
Is it really?
No.
Oh, man.
Welcome to Manitoba. Toil and peaceful life.
Manitoba, get on this, man.
Yeah, no, exactly. You
know what you have to do.
Yeah. And because he was almost like a god on earth, he was accompanied by a choir of young women who would sing his praises as he traveled.
Fuck right off. Are you serious?
So,
just following him and singing behind him about his...
Yeah, just singing. Yeah, just I imagine doing some kind of rap as he walks around.
Just about to ask you to rap something for us. But I didn't have to. Just go for it.
Strutting down this, all like clicking their fingers in unison, like dancing, doing a coordinated dance around him. What an entrance. He invented the musical.
This is the prequel to 8 Mile.
Exactly. So because the smaller sect of that group was friends with the government and he was the leader of the bigger sect, and because he was very influential and they didn't like him, he was arrested and kept for 16 years in government custody.
Jesus.
And was kind of seen as like because the smaller group wanted to be in charge of the community and they needed to get rid of him. So they
just arrested him for no reason.
Yeah, they just like said, "Oh no, he's pretending." So they
And this is in
almost
Russia?
like more. This is in Russia at the time still, yeah. So
Jesus,
they
man,
more.
did these guys ever stop being fucking crazy? Like, seriously, it's just like it's not the history of them doing bad stuff. A lot of countries
No,
have
it's
have a history of
complicated.
doing bad stuff. Russia has a history of being fucking insane. It's fun,
It's
like
yeah,
when
but
it's not horrifying.
yeah, but like you go to like you go to a Russian town. It's full of like perfectly normal, nice people. It's just they've got a history of having very
insane leaders. Yeah,
insane leaders, yeah, and kind of leaders who get away with stuff for a long time and stuff. So anyway,
it was just as a side note, because you're right. I don't want to insult all of Russia and Russians, but like,
it's not
Henry.
Yeah,
you ever watch Henry Collins?
I know you mean.
You ever listen to Henry Collins or go to like watch Henry Collins live show? He's amazing.
No.
I believe it was him because he would go traveling all around the world. And people would be like, "Oh, don't go to that country. It's so dangerous. Whatever you do, don't go to that country." He's like, "Fuck it." And he'd go to these countries and just walk the streets and meet people. And I very much could be misquoting him. This could be coming from somebody else, but it just sounds like something he said, which is that like people all over the world are kind of really the same, and they just want peace and love and good food and shelter, and just to live well. And they're like, yeah, man, we kind of all want the same thing. I love my people, I love my country, but my government's kind of fucking insane right now. And a lot of people are like, yeah, me too. So it's not like this country's bad versus this country's good. It's like this country's politicians are fucking insane, but the people are still people. And I'm like, I kind of like that.
It's like when people say don't use TikTok is giving all your information to the Chinese government. I'm like, yeah, but all the other ones are giving your information to other governments. How do you decide which one you'd rather give all your information to versus another one?
I just don't use TikTok.
Like,
honestly, it's how I decide. I'm not on social media.
No. But when people go, "Oh my God, they're stealing all your information," I'm like, yeah, like everything else that you're using on your phone, including your phone, is also stealing all of your information all the time anyway. And people, they sell that information to anyone. It's not just governments.
No, yeah,
like
anyone. We talked about that before. I think we had an episode on it. I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I think we brought
stealing all your TikToks.
So he was seen as like an imprisoned leader. They'd locked their god up kind of thing, and he'd stayed in communication with them. And one of the things the Russian government didn't like about this sect was that they refused to fight in any of the wars, or be part of any of the wars. This flared up because and Russia has obviously just mobilized like 300,000 people, and some people are leaving. And this was a similar situation where they started to openly stand by the commandment of "thou shalt not kill" and refuse military service. They'd lay their arms down. And in one big moment in 1895, they all burnt their arms. Like they burnt all of their guns as like a big symbolic moment in
not their physical arms. They didn't take like cigarette butts and put them out on their forearms.
No, guns,
like
Jesse,
this.
guns.
Okay.
Yeah, let's burn our arms off. Now who's laughing? Oh, I guess you got us this time.
We can't go to war now. No arms. Yeah.
No, you can we'll still use. You can just run around kicking people. It's fine. Anyway,
oh no! Here come the armless brigade.
Although to be fair, I always get amazed by people who can like shoot bows and paint, who just use their feet. When people learn to use their feet because they've lost a limb or limbs, it just blows my mind what people can actually do. And I've seen
it's amazing
with
what
much
people can
better
do.
handwriting than me writing with their feet. It's amazing. So anyway, but this wasn't that. Okay. So
right. Yes. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
So what happened was eventually a bunch of stuff happened. But what happened was eventually Russia agreed that maybe they would rather than constantly battling with this sect to make them like do what they want and everything. They said, why don't you leave and resettle your entire sect somewhere else where you're not part of our empire, and we'll leave you alone. So they decided the best place to go was Canada.
Fucking A.
So between 1895 and 1899, 7,500 Doukhobors came from.
That's the name of the group, is the Doukhobors?
The sect. Doukhobors from the sect. Yes. Came to Canada
Okay, so let me just hold on. Let me just get this.
And they'd already moved around to different parts of Russia. They were kind of constantly being shifted.
So I just want to kind of do a sum up here of. So this is a like a peaceful community,
Yeah.
which broke off. A smaller sect went kind of more political leaning, and the larger sect was like, we're not fighting in any wars. We just want to live simply. We want to work hard and be peaceful.
Yeah.
Toil hard and be peaceful. And the government's like, fuck you. You have to kill people for us because we're out of our goddamn minds. And they were like, no, we want to just work hard and be peaceful. And the government's like, get the fuck out. And they're like, okay, we'll go to Canada and be peaceful with our God, which is the weird twist. Like the leader of this sect of people who just want to work hard and be peaceful also has like their leader is revered as some spiritual fucking superhuman. So that's a little weird. Okay. And then they moved to Canada. Am I up to point?
Yes, they did. They moved to Canada. So
okay.
Clifford Sifton, who was the Minister of Interior of Canada at the time, was determined to kind of bring more white European people across to Canada. And we covered this with the Ukrainian episode.
Right.
So he was open, but so they became called, this sect became nicknamed Clifford Sifton's Pets, because everyone believed
Clifford Sifton wasn't the leader of this sect, though, was he?
No. Clifford Sifton was the Minister of the Interior. So,
and he was the one that told them to fucking leave.
No. He was the one who welcomed them to Canada.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So he worked for the Canadian government. The Russians were like, "Hey, we want to get rid of you." He was like, "Come to Canada," and they did. And they were called his pets because apparently people perceived them to be treated quite generously by him.
It's funny. Like, hey, just a quick side note that like it seems that we as Canada we have a history of doing that. Like when people are in trouble, we're like, hey, just come here, and they do. And people freak out. Like some Canadians freak out, like, what are you doing, bringing people in? And then the rest of the world are like, what the fuck are you doing, bringing foreign people? But like it's always kind of worked out, and everyone. We just kind of have a happy, peaceful life here filled with like multicultural, like a wide range of people from all over the world. I don't see how it's a bad thing. Bringing, like helping people.
That was until I turned up.
Right. Yeah. Well, I didn't want to bring that up.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it was you who said this. Someone said this, but like, very rarely is Canada attacked by another country because like everybody's cousins are here. Yeah, like exactly. Really though, like everybody's relatives are here from a large variety of places. You know what I mean? Like it's a melting pot of everyone in Canada, of everyone in the world.
And I think that it's definitely a strength because there's connections to every community you can imagine, which is good. But so
just before we continue, what were the names of the people? The Clifton was the guy that welcomed them in. And
Clifton was the Canadian, and Peter, or Lordley as he rebranded himself, was the leader of the sect.
Lordley
is what he would like to be called.
Lordley and Clifton. All right. I feel like a buddy comedy coming on here.
So Lordley, eventually 3 years after his people arrived, he was allowed to leave and join his people in Canada.
Oh, because he was in prison, right?
Yes, yeah.
For no reason. Right.
So he was, and they settled in present-day Saskatchewan.
Oh, okay, cool.
And
they settled in present-day Saskatchewan? They had a time machine? That's impressive. Wow, this guy is godly.
The area that would eventually become known. Yeah, exactly. Where do you want to go? Saskatchewan 2022. That's where all the magic's happening. So but before Lordley arrived,
it would be something that Lordley would say, wouldn't it?
Exactly. It's heaven on earth, Saskatchewan 2022. So before he joined his people, they named their village the Victims. But when he arrived, or roughly the rough translation is the Victims or the Survivors. But when he arrived, they renamed the village to the Place of Rejoicing, which is nice.
That's much nicer. That's
yeah. But the land that they took over was quite big. So they had tens of thousands of acres of land spread over 3 different Canadian provinces, which they eventually started to occupy. And he became. They actually started. They worked really hard, and they became quite wealthy and quite influential, and were starting to like make the headlines in Canada quite quickly because their presence had suddenly appeared there. And again, one of the reasons, the way the sect operated was they kept separate from everybody else. So even though they had quite a large group of land, and they were centrally controlled by someone who they believed was their god, or at least their god on earth, it meant that it became a bit of a problem for some of the local communities in the way they perceived that community, much like what happened in Russia as well in the first place.
So, like other surrounding communities not liking the fact that other people believe in something other than what they believe in.
But also that I guess they were keeping them self separate, but also they were really successful on the land. So I think people are envious of how successful they were because they just believed in hard work and a simple life and everything.
So to confirm, the surrounding area of communities didn't like this sect. What was the name of the sect again? The victory, the little victory
Doukhobors.
fuckers? The Doukhobors? The Doukhobors, but
Doukhobors. Yeah.
they called themselves something else.
Oh no, the town was called the place of rejoicing.
Oh, the town was called the place of rejoicing for the Doukhobors. And so the surrounding communities were jealous of their ability to farm, and they didn't like the fact that they worshipped a man as a god. Is that where?
Yeah, well, so what happened was, because they had cheap internal labor, because it was a commune, it meant they could buy supplies in bulk from outside the region cheaply and sell stuff. It meant way cheaper than other farmers in the area. So it meant that people were like, because they were living this life of working as one big sect, it just disrupted the economies in a way that affected the smaller
that's
kind of
funny.
family run.
I love stories of people stomping their feet because of competition. No, it's not fair. They're better than me. Like that's like Uber. You know, Uber comes in and disrupts all the taxi companies, and the taxi companies are like, wah. You know? Just alienated all of our taxi listeners. Sorry.
Yeah, but also, I mean, Uber isn't good in some ways though, because it does.
Oh no, they're not good, but it's still like, you know, things change, adapt or die.
Things do change,
right? That's kind of how you can't expect things to stay the same forever. Like horse and buggies.
They also kind of ignored the law and and kind of like new regulations and laws that were coming in. They just reject them. So
no, but like okay. I mean, I'm not saying embrace Uber because Uber is great. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying when competition comes in, compete back. Don't just stomp your feet and go tell mommy like, it's not fair. They're competing better than us. Like it never works. It never works.
Just crown Farmer Bob your god in flesh and go from there.
Here in Halifax, we didn't allow Uber in for like 2-3 years because all the taxi companies did not want competition. That's what it was. They didn't want a better service coming in, doing it cheaper and better. Okay. And Uber has some neat stuff. At least they did several years ago. I don't know if they still do it, but like in Toronto, you could have they'd have snacks for you in the fucking back, some bottled water. You could connect your fucking Spotify on your phone to the car so that you're playing Daft Punk in your apartment, waiting for the car to show up. And it's connected through your account so that when you get in the car, it stops playing on your phone and starts playing in the car, regardless of what, like the driver doesn't even have to do anything. Shit like this. And so, of course, that's amazing. Now, is Uber evil? Yes. Most corporations are. I'm just saying the taxi companies here, what they did is to compete, they must have had like a 10-minute meeting. Like, what does our customers want? Obviously, they want an app. So they hired like some piss poor programmer and they made the shittiest fucking app imaginable, thinking this will solve all their problems, right? It was so hard to use. Nobody knew it existed. And they're like, well, I don't understand why people aren't using it anymore. Uber's still fighting to get in. And then Uber came in and everyone's like, Uber, yay. Anyway, I'm just saying, Uber's evil, but competition happens. Don't just stamp your feet and yell to mommy. That never fucking works. Fine, anyway, sorry.
Yeah, so this new app was really disrupting the Saskatchewan in the early 20th century. And so, but also as well, the Doukhobors were.
You not have anything to say about my Uber rant? Just like, okay, Jesse's done talking.
I don't know. I don't use taxis, so.
No,
I used the last time I used an Uber was when I was in Canada, and just before I moved to Canada, and we dropped off our rental car, to jump on a plane as a family to move to Canada. And in I don't know if you can do it here or in Toronto, but in the UK you can order like a normal car, or you can order like a premium or a super luxury car.
you can do that.
So I ordered a premium, and
With Uber.
this really nice Mercedes Benz turned up. And I was like, well, if I'm gonna get my last Uber in the UK for a long time, let's do it in style. So me and my eldest son rode back in a really nice Mercedes back to the hotel before we got on our plane. So there we go. That's my contribution.
No, that's great. That's a good contribution. It just reminded me of of a story. I was in Calgary, and I was asked to photograph my friend's wedding out in, I think it was Banff or someplace like that, and they didn't arrange a ride for me. And I was like, the last day, I'm like, okay, am I going with someone? Is there a carpool? And they're like, what? Well, I thought you were just going to get here yourself. I'm like, fuck. And I was like, I looked up cab companies. There were no cabs that would drive out there, just for whatever reason. And the only way I could get out there was by renting a limousine. And so I'm like, fuck it. So I rented a limousine, and I drove in the backseat of limousine by myself, drinking whiskey. And I gave the guy, I was like, is this I was smoking back then. And I asked the driver, like, is this a smoking limousine? He's like, no. And I handed him $20. I'm like, how about now? He's like, yeah, go for it. So I was just smoking cigarettes and drinking whiskey in the back of a limo, driving to the locale where I had to shoot a wedding.
To somebody else's wedding.
To somebody else's wedding. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's cool. So also the Doukhobors were also they had a bit of bias against them from the local government too. So there were restrictions on their right to vote. The way they got married within their communities wasn't recognized legally, and they kept trying to get their kids to go to state schools rather than like stay with the internal education that they did. And then World War I broke out as well.
Oh, so, Jesus! Right.
A lot of people were they were drafting a lot of young men, and they were exempt from going, which caused even more issues.
Why were they? Why were they? Hey, I'm not that I'm for the draft. I'm just curious. Why were they exempt?
They were pacifists. So the government recognized that and said that they didn't have to send any of their young men when, all the.
Hold on, is that a thing back then? Like if the draft was coming your way, all you had to do was just say, "I'm a pacifist," and like.
No, not necessarily. Lots of pacifists were still drafted, but this was like a religious thing, an exempment.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. So although they'd arrived in Canada and they'd been welcomed, there was like things bubbling around. There are lots of potential, and also there was a lot of internal rivalry, because obviously the sect had already split in two back in Russia, and there was a lot of people vying for power within the sect too, wanted to bring Lord Lee down. So
why?
When he boarded the trip.
Lord lives in Canada. Who cares anymore, man? Leave him alone.
No, but even with even in Canada, within that community, like he was.
Oh, I thought you were saying that the sects over in Russia were trying to take him down in Canada.
No. This was within his own internal community too. So
okay, I guess
so
can we? I know you wanted to do a tight episode, but this is too good. There's too many juicy bits that I'm just not getting enough information from that I'm really curious. Like, what is this lordly man doing wrong that everyone fucking hates him? I don't know.
You stop. Like, they just. I think it's just they were an outsider community. They did things differently, and
that's what everybody on the outside of the community hated him, I guess. But why inside?
I don't know, because it was quite secretive. So he. At the age of 64, he boarded the Canadian Pacific Railway train in Brilliant, BC. It's not me saying BC is brilliant. That's the name of the town. It's pretty good.
That is a pretty cool name, I got to say. Yeah.
It's a pretty good province.
1924. Smart people there.
So he was 64. He was accompanied by his current favorite young woman, a 20-year-old Mary, her name was. And also on the train was the local elected MLA for Grand Forks, John McKee, and also other passengers, including. So it was a mixture of local politicians and also people from his sect who were in his inner circle. And the train left and was between Castlegar and Grand Forks. And basically the explosion was centered under his seat.
Wow.
And it blew away the roof and sides of the car coach. And there were 21 people in the car. So they were all but 2 were killed or injured. And obviously, as I said earlier, like 9 were killed in the accident. And a few of them were actually
2 people. there were 2 people in that car that didn't die and weren't even injured?
No.
Jesus,
So-
can you imagine being those people? Fuck.
Yeah. Peter's body was found with one leg gone entirely, and his body was 15 meters away from the car, so he got completely blown out of it.
Jesus.
And the initial investigation said the crime was perpetrated by people within his community, but the community suspected the Canadian government was involved, or one of the many other people who were kind of hostile to the to it all. So, because he,
I really want to know more about this guy. Like, I don't understand why anyone did. Like, what the? I just don't know. I just don't know. Like, what did he do?
I've got so the list, and it gets more interesting. So the list of potential suspects include a splinter group from his sect, the federal government, the Ku Klux Klan, which I have no idea how they were involved, and his own son, Peter II, who wanted to be the new leader.
And you don't have any information on this guy at all. Like, we don't know why anybody wanted to do this to him.
I didn't look at it for this episode. I'm sure it's out there. If other people want to learn more, or you want to, find a book, read it. So,
thank you.
So, despite a $2,000 reward, no charges were ever laid, and the crime was never solved.
Wow.
And there was even one theory that it was an accident, because it was something to do with a leaky gas line and a miner forgetting some dynamite on the train. And I'm like, no, it clearly was right under his seat.
Yeah, seriously.
It's too many. Yeah. So anyway, there we go.
Wow. That's amazing.
Did you like that story?
I really like that story. Anything to do with dynamite and blowing up a train. Come on now. Give me more of those stories. That was great.
That was a
we
good
just have like a month of train explosions.
Yeah.
Like Canadian trains are
Canada's top 10 train explosions. In at number 1, 7 people died. Number 2, 13 people died. Are you happy, Jesse? Number 3.
Just statistics. Come on. You're a master storyteller. Fucking
How
hell.
many people died in all these train crashes? Jesse's nursing a semi. Yes.
Well, can you tell a quick ghost story of him after he died? Just like a 30-second ghost story with music.
Every once in a while. No, I'm not going to do music. I'll just do it quickly. It's going to be a very impactful one.
Oh, come on! Add a little music for us.
Okay. Children, next time you're riding a train through the mountains of British Columbia, take a look out the window. In a dense fog, sometimes you might see him, lordly. That's right, lordly.
Legless lordly.
Legless lordly. Legless lordly can be seen crawling along the tracks looking for his leg. So next time you're riding the train through the mountains of BC, do it through thick fog. Be sure to peer out the window and look down, because maybe Lordly's looking up at you, eyeing up your legs. How's that?
That was great. It was on the spot. Well done, sir. Well done.
There we go. Legless Lordly.
Thank you, dear listener, for listening and sticking us in your ear holes. Call to action is send us a ghost story. Send us a if you have a true ghost story, send it to us. Send it to us on a speakpipe.com/Canadian Politics is Boring, or email us at CanadianPoliticsIsBoring@gmail.com, or just on Twitter or Instagram, and we'll read it on the air up until Halloween. God knows what happens on Halloween.
And if the hurricane has killed me, then this is the last episode you'll ever hear with me, because we're recording this just before the hurricane hits.
That's right.
If not, then I'll be back next week too.
And yeah, okay, that's it. Let's hope Reese versus the hurricane. Let's see who wins. I mean, we'll know by the time this comes out.
Cool.
This might be the last episode ever. Bye, everybody.
Bye.